With the floors being done over on that side and over here, and this closet finally being done where the flooring is, looks fantastic. As you can see, got the shelving back in. With all of that being completed, it is now time to move back in towards the bonus room and get this door up. I have been talking about this for quite a few videos. This will allow us to close off the bonus room while I work in there, sand down the walls, prevent dust from getting back into the hallway. And we've got the door sitting there. And I'm about to take it apart and put it into place and get that hung correctly. Had to pick up a couple of boxes of shims here. They're like a couple of dollars each. You've seen me do this before. They go in between the areas where you're going to level it off and then you screw into it. But we're gonna work on this right now, and then we will give you an update here shortly. You can see here I'm taking apart the door and the door molding that goes around the door frame. Got the door sitting over here. I have already taken off one side of the molding and I'm working on the second side. You have to be a little gentle with this because once you start taking the molding off, the frame becomes kind of flimsy. It's only supported at the corners. And there's staples that are in there, and I want to take those out gently because I don't want to ruin the frame any more than I have to. The reason why we're taking off these pieces of molding on these doors is because I'm going to replace them with the same size molding that you see on all the other doors that are on the second floor here. I believe these are either 3 1/4, 3 1/2, and the ones that are on the door, I believe, are 2 1/4, maybe 2 1/2. So they're an inch smaller, and I just want the consistency of having the same style door frame on this door. So we're going to continue taking these off, and then we're going to stand it up and get it into place. I've got the frame taken apart. You can see it on the outside there. I've got it laid into the doorway here, and it is going to fit quite nicely into that space. One thing we are going to do here is I'm going to have the door all the way to the left here. So we're just going to put some screws in to the side, make it real tight to this side, and then we will most likely shim this side of it up. That's going to serve two purposes that are going to work out well. Number one, the door hinges are going to have full support of the stud that is sitting here once I nail that in. So that's a good thing. And the other piece here is because we're moving the door all the way to this side, we'll have enough room on this edge, because most likely it's going to be out more like this once everything's in, to get the frame in, or excuse me, to get the door molding in, and it should make the door be centered on that wall once we get everything moved over to the right here now. So that's what we are looking to do, and we're gonna start putting some shims in and some screws, and we'll let you know how that goes shortly. You can see that the frame is going in quite nicely. I've got the right side here screwed in to the stud that is sitting there. And I've got some shims in on this side because there was a gap when I started screwing in the screws here on each one of these screws so far. And we just needed to fill that in so it kept this entire frame part level and straight. I didn't need to do it on this side because that was right up against the stud. And if you look closely, it's pretty much straight on up and down. So we are in a really good spot starting off on this particular frame, knock on wood. So we're gonna keep it going. And if you look at my level here, it doesn't get any better than that all the way down here. So we're in a good spot. What I'm going to do next here is I'm gonna put the door on, and then we're gonna level this out and keep it closed, and that way I can measure how big of a shim I'm going to need on this side. And on the top also, you can see a sizable gap there. We're just going to fill that in with 2x, and if I have to trim them down using a planer, I will do that. And we'll put those into place, and then the door should stay level and square when we open and shut it. So that is coming up next. I've got the frame in still, and I've added the blocking that is going to be on this side of the doorway. This is actually working out very well. I was able just to take some 2x4 scraps and put them at 4 spots there. That's where I'm going to screw into the side here. And it just left, as you can see, there's a tiny gap there. You see the light shining through. That's where I'm going to put my shim pieces to level this door up and secure it to the wall. So this could not have worked out any better. You can see the door opens up very well. You put it to the end there and it stays open. And we're going to put those shim pieces most likely on this side of the door, just like we did over here. And then once these shim pieces are in, this will pretty much be square, but to secure it even more, I'm going to put a couple of pieces up here, and then we'll drill into the top, and then this door frame will be completely done. So I'll probably have another hour's worth of work, but this is coming along just fine, and we will show you the finished product here in a bit. I finished with all of the shim pieces for the door, and it is completely done. And I have to say, this is the easiest door I've been able to hang out of this project so far. It only took a couple of hours. Everything just went in quite well. And that's just because we were able to go right against the stud, as I mentioned earlier, and then just put 2x4s where those blocks are. So we've got all the shims in. You can see them all around the top here. And then we even have them 4 on this side, 4 on this side. They kind of match up evenly there. And on this up here, this was 3/4 of an inch that I needed. And all I did was use a couple of scrap hardwood floor pieces, these ones down here. I had a couple of extra scraps laying around that were just the perfect size, so I just put those up there and screwed right into them with the shim pieces. So that worked out really well. So the next thing that we need to do here is completely finish off the door, and that is painting it the same white that you see on all the other doors here. To finish that piece off, I need to go to the big box store and pick up some molding, the right size. We're going to paint that and finish that, put it on, staple it in place, fill the holes up in the gaps, sand it down, put the finish paint on it again, and then we will be completely done. And then finally putting the hardware on the door as needed. We're not going to go with the stainless steel, this brushed nickel hardware that's on here. We've got the brushed oil bronze like you see on this door over here. I've got those laying around here somewhere. I'll find those and we'll stick those on there also. And the last thing I wanted to mention about this door is when I bought it as a solid core door. And when I took it apart and just laid it up against the side, I didn't realize how heavy it was until I actually lifted it. And that door is heavy because it's a solid core filled wood door, as opposed to these, which are hollow core, and they just have that cardboard filling in it. If you saw one of my earlier videos of how I took the top off the door to get it into the closets over there, you would have saw the inside of that door was all hollowed out. This is not the case. Full solid door, pretty heavy, and that's going to be nice. And then I'm also going to fill this up with insulation once we get the molding on the other side done, and we'll make this whole wall insulated, which is the intent here. So we will continue on with this and give you some more updates. I've completed painting the first coat of paint on the door here, and it's coming out really nice. You can see though that there is some shading coming through from the original color. So we're going to go back over this with a second coat, and then that should finish it off. We'll then flip it over after it dries, and we'll put 2 coats on the other side, and then that door will be done. And in the meantime, what I need to do here is fill in all these holes with our trusty dusty pink plastic wood here. And these were all the screws went through and put them into the shims and into the siding here and the blocking to give this a more sturdy look here. So we are going to finish that currently, and then we'll let that dry, sand it down, and then we'll paint that one the finished white, the same color that you see over here. I also picked up some molding today. That's all finished painting downstairs. And I'm going to cut that to size and put it on the other side so we can get the insulation in, and then we'll finish this door off. I've got the molding around the doorway all set. It looks really good. The angles cut up really nice on each of the corners at the top, and not a whole lot of fill-in I need to do. We'll use our pink stuff to go in all the holes. And you can see here I've got a ton of holes in the framing, and that's because we had a little bit of a dimensional mishap on the edges here, and I had to bend the molding a little bit to kind of fit in place, just slightly, but enough to have to put all these holes in it. So it's going to be a little bit of extra work to fill all those in and sand them down and repaint over it, but it is nice and flush now, and it looks really good. We did make a rookie mistake though. In an effort to save money, which I should not have done, I bought these molding pieces, and it's by the linear foot. And I said, let's calculate this out. And I only bought 7-foot pieces. And by the time I cut the angles, I was 1/4 of an inch off at the top. And what that's causing is a little gap at the bottom there, as you can see. And kind of annoying that I didn't have the foresight to compensate for that. So for now on, I'm just going to buy 8-foot pieces for all the doors and then cut them down to what I need regardless of the cost. Because this is going to fix that, I'm going to have to cut a real small piece off, shove it up underneath, use my pink stuff to hide the seam, and then paint over it. And that's going to cost me probably half an hour's worth of work, and just kind of frustrated at myself that happened. But anyways, live and learn. As I've said many times before, rookie mistakes can be fixed, and that's what we're going to do on that. On this side, now that I've got the molding in for the outside part of the frame, I'm going to go back in and fill all this in with insulation. And looking back on this, the way I've configured this, which is absolutely fine, saving on wood, I had all these wood extra pieces, I probably would have gotten a 2x4, even though they're expensive, and just put it all the way up and down, and then just put my shim pieces in where I needed to. But this works absolutely fine. It's very secure. It's not going anywhere. Once I get this other piece on here, we'll be good to go also. So that's where we stand. We're going to finish this up, and I will show you the finished product before we paint it. Till then. I finished all of the molding on both sides of the door going into the bonus room. And if you look closely, there are a ton of holes that I used my nailing guns on to put the molding on. That's because there were some mistakes on the drywall and the width of the original door frame. One of the things that I realize is that these 2 pieces here can actually slide in and out, or one of these can, so you can get the correct width on the door opening. In this case, I had about 4.5, 5 inches roughly, but it comes stable together, and it's more like 3 3/4 inches or something to that effect. So when I put it on, I didn't take that into account, and it left the edge of this sticking out a little more. So what I had to do is I took the molding and I just kind of pushed it into place real good, and that's why you see all the nails there. I know that now, so we will make sure that we don't make that mistake again on the next door to put in, which will be this one. That frame over there, I'm going to make sure I can take that apart and get the right width on it over there. But in the meantime, yes, it's extra work, but it's all put together. It's nice and flat. It's tied up against the frame, and it's the same on this side. You can see a lot of holes in there, a hell of a lot more than what I would want, but no big deal. We'll just sand all that down and we'll go over it with the finished paint and you won't even notice it. So tomorrow we are going to hang this door. I painted the other side here. It's looking fantastic. Just wait for that to dry. And then once that's done, we'll hang it up here after all this is finished and we'll see how it looks. So until then. I have finished all of the caulking around the doorway leading into the bonus room, including putting that pink wood plastic filler into all the holes, and it is really cleaning up nice. There's a lot of holes as I showed you earlier, but we'll be able to paint over those here in about half an hour. We're just letting the caulk dry that I put in between all the seams that you see along here and then on the top. Anywhere there was a gap, I just filled it in with caulk all the way down, and we'll just paint over that with the finished coat of paint. But it's looking fantastic, and while I'm waiting for that to dry, I am now going to put the hardware on the door here. Just a side note, I also finished both coats of paint on each side of the door, and it looks great as you can see here. I've got the hardware going on here, which is that oil bronzed look that we're putting out throughout the house. Took the brushed nickel door hinges off, and I also got the doorknob ready to go on, which is sitting right there. And I also have the actual locking mechanism that's going to go inside the door here. The problem here is, if you look real closely at this, these are squared off. However, the end of the piece here is rounded off. So what I need to do is take this chisel and really carefully make these squared off, as you can see here, and I'm in the process of doing that. So just take a rubber mallet, just pound this in this way, kind of carve that out. As you can see here, I'm just doing it very lightly. And we'll do the same on all four corners, and then we'll just continue to dry fit this until we get it to fit correctly, and then we can put the doorknobs on. So that's where we stand right now, and we'll give you an update of how that looks here shortly. The door to Narnia has been completed. It is looking fantastic. The framing is all done. The painting is all done. The doors hung and it closes just quite nicely, as you can see here. And now we have a nice closed off bonus room for me to continue my work in here finishing this off. And as I stated before, you know, that wall's completed, so that whole piece is complete. It looks great, and we're gonna get ready to move on here. And if we take a look from the front side, just open this up, we'll see that it looks great on this side also. So we're gonna wrap this one up. Lots of daylight left. It's still morning here, and we are now ready to move into the bonus room. So with that being said, till next time, peace out.